So the last few days, I've had somebody jumping on my case about um, a video that I did concerning Apollyon, his identity, and who his followers are. And the woman was complaining to me, telling me that if John 9 says that they are locusts, that they are locusts, the people who or the locusts that are written in Revelation 9. So what I want to do is I'm going to double down on my what I said in my previous video. This video must be over a year old, but I've got actually some new information that would be very helpful to end the matter. And I'm going to go to screen share right now, get this thing started. All right. So before I get started with Revelation 9, what I'm going to do is go to 2 Peter 1 and verse 20 as first. Okay. And I'm going to look at several different translations. All right, we'll start with King James first. Knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scripture is of any private interpretation. That seems like a very broad statement here. Okay. What does he mean by that? What does this mean? Okay. Let's look at New International Version, see what it says. Above all, you must understand that no prophecy of scripture came about by the prophet's own interpretation of things. Well, this is correct. I'm not saying that the King James is incorrect, but the King James Version paints a broader picture, and it is also correct because it does not come of any of our interpretation either. Any prophecy, which means visions as well. For instance, the vision that Pharaoh had of the 7 fat cows and the 7 lean cows, and then he had another vision of 7 fat ears of wheat and 7 thin ears of wheat. And by the Holy Spirit, Joseph was able to interpret the vision. Okay. Now, there are other visions like Daniel 7. Okay. Daniel also had a vision. Let's start in verse 1. In the first year of King Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions in his head upon his bed, and he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. And Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven, the sky, strove upon the great sea. You see this? The great sea. Okay. Let's stop right here. So, the great sea, what is it? Well, since Daniel was one of the exiles that was dragged to Babylon, his reference point would be the land of Israel. Okay? So, if your reference point is the land of Israel, you have Kinneret, which is called the Sea of Galilee. You have the Salty Sea, the Dead Sea. And then you have the Mediterranean Sea. Which one do you think is the Great Sea? I'm asking this question using 4th or 5th grade, maybe 3rd grade logic to make a point here, because I'm going to go over something not very long from now that points to this Great Sea, the Mediterranean Sea. And in fact, it is possible that Strong's Concordance might already even have the answer. I don't know. I'm just checking it. The great yam. Okay. It doesn't specify, but you see, like I say, you have to use Israel as a reference point, and the Great Sea would obviously be the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, and four great beasts come from the sea, diverse from one another. Okay, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings until the wings thereof were plucked as it was lifted from the earth, and it was made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, the second, like unto a bear, raised itself on one side, and it had three ribs in its mouth, and it was said to arise and devour much flesh. And after this I beheld until another, like a leopard, had upon its back its four wings of a fowl, and the beast also had four heads. Okay. And then after this, in night vision, I saw a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and exceedingly strong, that had great iron teeth. Now, what I want to do then is go to, before we go to Revelation 9, I want to show you something here. This will give you context, folks. See this? Revelation 13 and verse 1. And this is John. This is Yohanan speaking. He had a vision. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise out of the sea. Now, these four beasts that Daniel saw rose up out of the great sea. You see, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. That's also what Daniel saw. And his feet was as a bear. That's also what Daniel saw. And his mouth is the mouth of a lion. Daniel saw that too. You see. So this came out of the Great Sea, or the Mediterranean Sea. All Bible scholars know that the Great Sea in the prophets is in fact the Mediterranean Sea. So now let's go to Revelation 9. Verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him, to the star, was given the key of the bottomless pit, abyssos, the abyss, the unfathomable depth. Right now, in Jewish folklore, it's considered a home of dead and evil spirits, right? Let me show you something here. In classic Greek, the abyss is referred to as the deep sea. Where is Greece located? In the deep sea, or in the Mediterranean Sea. Okay. Now, what was Greece in Daniel's prophecy? Greece was the leopard with 4 heads, the Grecian Empire. Was it not? So, as we see, if we do a little bit of studying, you find out that this bottomless pit is actually the Mediterranean Sea. And he opened up the Mediterranean Sea, and there rose a smoke out of the pit. Folks, am I doing this interpretation on my own? No, I'm not. as a smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the, okay, now it says well, but what is it? What does this return to? The pit of the abyss. Okay, same thing. An abyss. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. Now, it does indeed say locust, does it not? So when does a locust not become a locust? Or when is it interpreted to be something other than an actual locust? All right, let's continue. And unto them was given power, that like the scorpions of the earth have power. Now, do you know of any locust that has power like a scorpion? Hmm? Do you know of any? And it was commanded that they should not hurt the grass of the earth. Well, the power of locusts is to eat the grass of the earth, folks. Neither any green thing. Well, this is exactly what locusts do. They eat all green things. Neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of Jehovah in their forehead. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. Now, folks, well, anyway, I'll continue. And the torment was as a torment of a scorpion, when it was like a torment, similar to the torment of a scorpion when he strikes a man. Why does it have to say similar to the torment of a scorpion? Why don't it just say that these are real scorpions and they strike a man and causes him torment? That's not what he says. He says, and the torment was like or as similar to a scorpion when he strikes a man. And in those days, men shall seek death and shall not find it, and then shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Wow. Now he's describing the shape of the well, we all know what locusts look like, do we not? So why is he describing the shape of the locust? Has anybody ever thought about this? Now, when you look in Strong's Concordance, it's homeoma 3667, that which is made like or similar. We're like resembled a horse preparing unto battle. Well, how is a horse? What does a horse look like prepared unto battle? Well, they have all sorts of armament on the horse. And on their heads, as it were, it looked like like crowns like gold, similar, resembling a crown. And their faces were as the face of a man, of men. Do scorpions and locusts have faces of men? And they had hair like the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron. Have you ever seen locusts that have breastplates of iron? And the sound of their wings was the sound of chariots. Now, I'm going to tell you something, folks. The sound of locust wings are not like chariots, but there is something that sounds like chariots, running of many horses running to battle. And that is a helicopter, folks. And their tails were like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. And their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the abyss. Now, who is this angel of the abyss, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon? But in the Greek tongue, his name is Apollyon or Apollo. Who is this? Okay. I want to, before I go to this Apollyon fella, I want to cover this locust situation here. Since no prophecy and no vision is with private interpretation, let's go to Joel 2. Starting in verse 1, blow ye the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Jehovah's wrath comes, and it is near at hand. A day of darkness, gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people, and a strong people. Let's go to Strong's Concordance, and let's continue reading. People, folk. Let's talk about people. People, folks. People nation. And in Genesis 11, verse 6, it is all mankind, peoples in general. Folks, come on. Come on, folks. You're a great people and a strong. There has not been the like, neither shall any more after it. Even to years of many generations. A fire in front of them. Let me ask you a question. Do locusts shoot out fire in front of them? And then a flame burns the land as the Garden of Eden in front of them. And behind them as a desolate wilderness. And nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them of all things is like horses. As horsemen shall they run. We got the same thing as in Revelation 9. So I can safely, folks, use Joel 2 to interpret the fifth trumpet sound in Revelation 9. You know why? Because the words of Joel 2 came from the mouth of our Father in heaven himself. So I don't need to interpret this myself. Because you see, as it says in 2 Peter 1 and verse 20, knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scripture is of any private interpretation. So let's continue with Joel 2, shall we? We first read, it talks about people, folk, people, mankind. Right here, a great people. Now, this should be enough, folks. This should be enough. But for the naysayers out there, I will continue. This is obviously the same thing that is written, or it is similar to what is written in Revelation 9. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of the mountains shall they leap. The noise of a flame of fire that devours a stubble. As strong people set in battle array before their faces, the people, which be the Israeli people, shall be much pained, and all faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men, or like the mighty, and they shall climb the wall. Once again, he uses the word enosh, mankind, of battle, using the word men. Why is he not using the word locusts? And they shall march every one in his own path, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall they thrust one another. They shall walk every one in his path, and then when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb upon the mountain, upon the houses, and they shall enter into the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them, and heaven shall tremble, and the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars withdraw their shining. Well, this is talking about the sixth seal, isn't it? And Jehovah shall utter his voice before. Does it say his army? No, it doesn't. It says before the army. Because the encampment, not his encampment, the encampment, an encampment is very great, mighty and numerous. Accomplish is the word for the day of Jehovah is great and very terrible, and who can abide in it? Therefore also now, saith Jehovah, turn you to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning, and rend your heart and not your garments, and turn to Jehovah your Elohim, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and great in kindness, and he changes his mind of calamity. Who knows? Or not who knows? Know this. He will return and change his mind. Be sorrowful for this and leave a blessing behind him instead. Meat and meat and drink offering. Jehovah, your Elohim. So what he's saying in here, and I know that King James Version seems to have misinterpreted this, he's saying that he will instead return and leave a blessing behind him. Food and water, drink. It says cover. Okay, it means a drink offering. Okay. Now, blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify a fast, and call a solemn assembly. Gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children and those that suck the breast. Let the bridegroom go forth from the chamber, and the bride come out of her closet. Let the priests and the ministers of Jehovah weep before the porch of the altar, and let them say, spare your people, O Jehovah, and don't give your heritage to reproach, that the heathen. Oh, here we go again with people. Should rule over them. Why should they say among the folk, where is their Elohim? Then Jehovah will be jealous for his land and pity his people. Yes, Jehovah will answer and say unto his people, behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and you shall be satisfied therewith, and you shall no more be reproached among the heathen. But I will remove far off from you the northern. The north that implies a northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the East Sea. That would be actually the Sea of Galilee or Kinneret, and his hinder part toward the Great Sea. The Great Sea. And his stink shall come up and his ill favor shall come up, because he has done great things. All right. So here's the question now. This army, is it locusts or is it people? Hmm? Huh? Come on. A third grader could answer this. And the northern army would be in Ezekiel 38 and 39. Okay. So we just read in Joel 2, I should have left it there, and it even says that it is that he's going to bring that army down into Israel. Now look what we have in Ezekiel 38. And the word of Jehovah came unto me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief Rosh, prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, saying, Thus saith Jehovah Elohim, Behold, I am against you, O Gog, Rosh, prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn you back, or cause you to return, put hooks in your jaws, and I will bring you forth, and all your army, horses. Wait a minute. Horses? Crane. Oh, birds. Birds. Warbirds, folks. Warbirds. And horsemen, and all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company, with bucklers, shields, and all of them handling swords. Persia, Cush, or Hindu Kush, and Put with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarma, of the north quarters, and his bands and many people with you. Be prepared and prepare for yourself, you and all your company that will assemble with you, and be a mishmar, a guard, an observer, an observing force unto them. After many days you shall be visited in the latter years. You shall come into the land that is brought back from the sword and is gathered from many people against the mountains of Israel, which have always been laid waste, but is brought forth out of the nations. And they shall dwell safely, all of them. And you shall ascend and come like a storm, and you shall be like a cloud to cover the land, you and all your bands and many people with you. You see. But we know what happens to them, don't we? The same thing that happens in Joel 2. His stink is going to rise. And look. Talks about the earthquake in Joel 2, did it not? Verse 19, it says, For in a jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking, quaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all the creeping things that creep upon the land and all the men that are upon the face of the land shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall to the ground, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, says Jehovah. You see, folks. And how does his great stink come up? Between the East Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. Verse 11 of Ezekiel 39, It shall come to pass in that day that I will give Gog a place there for graves in Israel, in the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea, and it shall stink the noses of the passengers there, and they shall bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamon Gog. So, and you can read verse 17 through 20 and see that these locusts are men and their war equipment. It is not for private interpretation, folks. It is not a matter of one's own interpretation. No, sir. If you want to find interpretation, you have to look for it in the prophets. Revelation 9. Okay. Let's go to Revelation 9. Okay. Now, verse 11. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the abyss or the Mediterranean Sea, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon, destroyer. Now he's the angel of the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, let's look up Apollo or Apollyon. Now there's something interesting about Apollo. You see, Apollo, he is a counterfeit of the Messiah. Let me show you something. Apollo is the Olympian god of the sun. Yes. And light and music and poetry, healing and plagues, prophecy and knowledge, order and beauty, archery and agriculture, and embodiment of the Hellenic idea of, I can't even pronounce that, Kagathia. He is harmony, reason, and moderation personified, a perfect blend of physical superiority and moral virtue, a complex deity who turns up in art and literature, possibly as often as Zeus himself. Apollo is the only major god who appears in the same name in both Greek and Roman mythology. Now we're getting somewhere, folks. The origin of the name of Apollo is not properly understood. Many Greeks seem to have supposed that it stands for destroyer. Oh, really? Look. 623, Apollyon, a destroyer. Look. Let's continue. Modern scholars disagree with most of them, with the majority linking Apollo's name to the Greek word apello, which means a sheepfold, which may suggest that Apollo was originally merely a protector of the flocks and herds. Now we're getting to the counterfeit part, or getting closer to it, folks. All right, I will go ahead and skip this. And this section right here, I'll skip that. And let's come to this. Apollo's birth and sanctuaries, the slaying of Python. Ooh. Apollo is the son of Zeus and Leto. As one of the numerous Zeus lovers, his mother incurred the wrath of Hera, who sent the dragon, Python, to pursue Leto throughout all the lands and forbade her to give birth anywhere on solid earth. Oh, so you see, folks, you see what the Romans, the Europeans have done. But you say, oh, Henry, you don't have the answer yet. You don't have your facts straight yet. Well, I will get there. Okay. So here we have the python or the dragon chasing the woman around, you see. But this is a counterfeit of, as I remember, Revelation 6, right? Apollo was so enraged that he dared violate the sanctity of the site by staining it with Python's blood. Zeus ordered Apollo to cleanse himself, after which he returned to Delphi and claimed a shrine in his name. Okay, so, all right, enough of this. Now let's look at this. Legion 15, Apollinaris. Apollo's 15th Legion. What was this? Was a legion of the Imperial Roman Army. Let me ask you a question. Where is Rome today? In the abyss, the Mediterranean Sea. Right here. This is where Rome is. In the abyss. What do you see in the abyss? European nations and North Africa. What? Okay. Now, the emblem of this legion was probably a picture of Apollo or one of his holy animals. Apollinaris 15 is sometimes confused with two other legions of the same number. An earlier unit which was commanded by Julius Caesar and met its end in North Africa in 49 BC, and later unit that was present at the Battle of Philippi on the side of the Second Triumvirate and then sent east. Now, here's the history of the 15th Legion of Apollo. Octavianus, later Emperor Augustus, raised Apollinaris 15 in order to end the occupation of Sicily by Sextus Pompeius, who was threatening Rome's grain supply. After the Battle of Actium, when the legion probably gained its epitaph Apollinaris, it was sent to garrison Illyricum, I can't pronounce that, where it probably remained until 6 BC, although it might have seen action in the Cantabrian Wars. In 6 AD, Apollinaris was a part of the huge campaign by Tiberius against the Marcomanni that was obstructed by a revolt in Pannonia. Apollinaris saw a good deal of fighting in the suppression of the revolt, according to the historian Balduin Saria. This legion erected a camp on the site of the Colonia Lulia Emona, which was established as a camp in 14 or 15 after the legion left for Carnuntum. This hypothesis has been rejected by the researcher. Well, I need to get down closer to... Okay. Then the unit stayed until sent to Syria and possibly Armenia by Nero in 61 or 62. These territories newly conquered from the Parthians, Persians. After the conclusion of the war with Parthia, the legion was sent to Alexandria, but soon found itself in fierce fighting in the first Jewish revolt. Capturing the town of Jotapata and Gamia, it was the 15th that captured the Jewish general, later to become famous as historian Josephus. During this period, the legion was commanded by Titus. That's right, Titus, who would later become emperor. Titus, the one who sacked Jerusalem. Therefore, as Daniel 9 and verse 27 would say, the destroyer, the desolator, will become made desolate. Now, let us then go to, once again, Apollyon, the sun god. We just read was a sun god. Sol Invictus. Sol Invictus means in Latin, unconquered sun, was the official sun god of the later Roman Empire and patron of soldiers. Okay, on the 25th of December. What? 25th of December, AD 274, the Roman Emperor Aurelian made it an official cult alongside the traditional Roman cults. So you see, folks, those of you who celebrate December the 25th, Christmas, you are not celebrating the Jewish Messiah. No, you are celebrating Apollyon. Apollyon the Destroyer. You see. So the new deity, or the scholars disagree about whether the new deity was a refoundation of the ancient Latin cult of Sol. Of course it was. Now, the god was favored by emperors after Aurelian and appeared on their coins until Constantine I. The last inscription referred to Sol Invictus dates to AD 387. And there were enough devotees in the 5th century that the Christian theologian Augustine found it necessary to preach against them. But what happened when Constantine the Great showed up, folks? But before we get to that, Invictus, or unconquerable, was an epithet utilized for several Roman deities, including Jupiter, Mars, Hercules, Apollo, and Sylvanus. It had been used from the 3rd century. The Roman cult to Sol is continuous from the earliest history of the city until the institution of Christianity as an exclusive state religion. All right. You can go and read a lot about Aurelius and about how he instituted December the 25th as the day of dedication to the false sun god Apollyon. Apollo. Now we go to Constantine. Emperors portrayed Sol Invictus on their official coinage with a wide range of legends, only a few of which incorporated the epithet Invictus, such as a legend Sol Invicto Comiti, claiming the unconquered sun as a companion to the emperor, used with particular frequency by Constantine. Statuettes of Sol Invictus carried by the standard bearers appear in 3 places in reliefs of the Arch of Constantine, the triumphal arch in Rome. And you know, folks, on the triumphal arch of Constantine, or on this particular arch, well, let's see. I think it's on the Titus arch, so I'll continue. Constantine's official coinage continues to bear images of Sol until 325 to 326. A solidus of Constantine, as well as a gold medallion from his reign, depicts the emperor's bust and profile twinned with Sol Invictus, with the legend Invictus Constantinus. So basically declaring himself the sun god. Constantine decreed March 7th, 321, on the day of the sun, Sunday, as the Roman day of rest. You can find this in Codex Justinianus 3.12.2. On the venerable day of the sun, let the magistrates and the people residing in the cities rest, and let all workshops be closed. In the country, however, persons engaged in agriculture may freely and lawfully continue their pursuits, because it often happens that on another day is not suitable for grain sowing or vine planting, lest by neglect of proper moment for such operations the bounty of heaven should be lost. Constantine's triumphal arch was carefully positioned to align with the colossal statue of Sol. Yes, folks. By the Colosseum, so that Sol performed a dominant backdrop when he was seen from the direction of the main approach towards the arch. Now, folks, you know who this is. It is the destroyer Apollyon, who people call Jesus today, and his armies. And what happens after the fifth trumpet? The sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before Elohim, saying to the sixth angel, which has the trumpet, loose the four angels, which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, and which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of mankind. Now, how in the world is a third part of mankind going to be slain within a year, a month, and a day? Now it says the number of the horsemen were 200,000. But is that what it was? It says two, not 200. Two, 10,000. 10,000. But the word means myriad, or two myriads. I heard the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire. Now, how is a breastplate made of fire, folks? Well, breastplates are not made of fire. What is he saying? What he's saying is these horses that's in his vision are shooting fire from inside of them. And of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the head of lions. And out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. Well, horses and lions don't issue fire, smoke, and brimstone. You're supposed to use your heads, folks. We just read in Joel 2 what this army is. It is the northern army coming down. And by these three were the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued from their mouths. For the power is in their mouth and in their tails. Oh, here we go with the tails again. And their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads with them, and they do hurt. And as I have pointed out, it looks to me, I'm not adding. You just take a look around you and see what it looks like. It looks to me. It looks to me like mobile ICBM launchers. That's what it looks like to me. Now, folks, who is it that has all this weaponry? Who is it, folks? Who is it that has all this weaponry? The followers of the false Messiah, Apollyon, the Christian nations. I'm not saying that the Persians don't, but without the Christians, without the followers of Apollyon, the Persians wouldn't have this either. I know this is hard for many to stomach, but the truth is the truth, folks. And you can take a look at the news. Things are going on that are pointing toward a great world war. The northern army above Israel, Hezbollah and their tunnels, Russia warning Israel to maintain the 1701 UN agreement when it was violated by Hezbollah in Lebanon. And for what is it? For a couple of months now, or for over a month, President Vladimir Putin refused to speak to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Suddenly, Russia demanding an explanation for uncovering the tunnels of Hezbollah right now? What do you mean? Demanding an explanation. Who is Russia to tell Israel what to do? Who is the commander of the Northern Army to tell Israel what to do? You see, the Northern Army is going to be dragged into the Holy Land like a bunch of locusts, and they will be dragged into the Holy Land for judgment. Now, I have heard rumors. I don't like to mention rumors, but in case it happens, I don't want people to be caught unawares. There are rumors, unsubstantiated rumors, that Israel is planning on launching an offensive against Lebanon on December 25th or somewhere around there, while people have got their minds on something else. Just a rumor. There's also military buildup going on in Ukraine and Donbass. Big military buildups. And there are claims out there claiming that Ukraine is supposedly going to do a false flag operation within 72 hours. That was told yesterday. Now, of course, it's difficult to know what is the truth and what is propaganda these days. Not to mention the fact that what just been happening in France with the Gilets jaunes, and the fact that the people are not just protesting taxes, but the inviting of terrorists into the land. And then last night, a terrorist attack in the heart of France, which all it's going to do is just make the Gilets jaunes even angrier. And then, of course, if that's not enough, in Great Britain, it appears that the House of Commons, I believe it's the House of Commons, or Parliament, I should say, have enough votes to bring down the government of Theresa May. And they're going to have a vote today. The whole world is in disarray, especially the Roman world is in complete disarray right now. And with all this disarray, temptation, temptation, temptation. Will Russia make its move? We shall find out.